still doesn't feel real. I mean, I'm outside of this fence right now, but it still doesn't feel real. I mean, just coming out of this tent, I still hadn't asked. I was still asking, where do I go? Can I go? Can I leave? And they're like, you can just go. And that's an amazing feeling to be able to just do what I want. I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. I'm going home.
God bless you. May the Lord bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Really, really important that we recognize the opportunities that are available today. It's important that we understand the work that has went into trying to help the individuals that are being released to be successful citizens, to go back to their families, to be mothers and fathers and wives and wives, not husbands in this situation, but wives. And so across the state of Oklahoma, maybe I need to bring you up here and let you take over.
Makes you tear up, giving hope and giving people second chances. It's unbelievable.
You know, but for the past several months, my wife Sarah had an idea to bring job fairs inside the prison. Never been done before. Over the last couple months, 28 job fairs took place. Over 700 people, not only in this commutation, but also folks that were within 6 months of getting out of prison, could come meet churches and nonprofits and talk about housing and education and jobs. And you're going to hear more about that, because we really want you to have a successful future. And that's what I want to leave you with, is this is the first day of the rest of your life. You know, you're going to have ups and downs. Even me as governor, did you know we have ups and downs in life? And everybody behind me. And so I encourage you that there's so many nonprofits, churches, mentors, friends. You heard the Department of Corrections Executive Director talk about, we want to help you. We want to get you plugged in, whether you need housing, education, access to, good paying jobs. I know the Alliance for Manufacturing Alliance is there to help plug you in. So we're so excited to help you. Please reach out when you need help. This is really a second chance for each and every one of you. And I want to challenge you, because you know that there will be tough times ahead, but your kids, your family, your future, everything depends on you getting tough and making sure that you get the help that you need, so you do not come back here and make the same mistakes that have happened in the past.
It moves my heart, because I know you guys are getting a second chance. You're getting an opportunity to take life back, and I'm so excited for you. And when they told me this, in fact, the way I feel is the way that little boy keeps cheering yay inside. I want to scream up and down and say yay. But when they told me about this a couple of months ago, I was very excited. But the wheels in my head started turning, and I thought, okay, we can't just shake your hand, pat you on the back, and say, have a good life. Because we know the barriers to re-entry into society are difficult. There's a lot of slam doors. There's a lot of hard things to come around. And I began to talk to other people, and they began to second that. And so we came up with this idea of a re-entry fair. And I will tell you, I was still getting texts on Friday from people in the community saying, how can I help? How can I be one of those services that's offered to people being released? So I want you to know, I'm here today to tell all of you, each and every one of you, that Oklahomans are ready to surround you and help you have a successful life here in our state.
Stephanie, tell us how you're feeling today after being released.
I feel great. I could have been on probation for like 9 years, and this has been a blessing.
How long were you serving?
I was serving a 10-year sentence on a possession charge.
Mm-hmm. And so when you heard the news of this, what was your reaction when you first heard that you were going to be one that was eligible to get out?
I was excited. I'm very excited. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. And are you from Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
And where are you going home to?
Shawnee.
Shawnee. And what are your plans from here?
To get a job and get established and be a productive part of society.
I got my GED in here, and I started doing college classes in here, so I plan to pursue my education. I want to do communications. I've had an uncle who worked in communications, and I'm really interested in that. Personally, photography or like journalism, so I'm really excited. And just kind of chill out for a little bit, just kind of shake off this incarceration and just learn to live life, just not take anything for granted. Oh my gosh, it is a blessing, and it's mind-blowing. Like, this is really happy. I'm happy and grateful to be a part of this new movement that's going on through Oklahoma.
That's what that moment was like when you were reunited with them.
Gosh, it felt like a dream come true. It's something that I've been waiting for a long time, just to be able to embrace them as long as I could.
Once you leave here.
Oh my gosh, I haven't eaten at Olive Garden, so I'm hoping my family will take me to Olive Garden. I've never been, so I hear great things about the Red States, so that's what I'm excited to do.
In July 2015, President Barack Obama became the first president to visit a federal prison while in office. His visit was in part spurred on by a desire to see major reforms in the U.S. prison system, including shorter prison terms and more use of parole. So what is parole? How does it currently work in America? Well, parole is the intermediary phase between a convict's time in prison and their release into the general public. While on parole, an ex-con is allowed to live on the outside, but they must avoid any further trouble with the law and establish regular contact with a supervising parole officer. Parole is the same thing as probation, except probation happens before or instead of a prison sentence, while parole is after a prisoner has served time. Parole serves two major functions. First, for the ex-con, it's a support system that helps them acclimate back into society and find a job or a housing situation. The second function serves to reduce the cost of keeping so many prisoners locked up by releasing low-risk convicts early. President Obama has been a huge proponent of cutting federal expenses this way, citing overcrowding in prisons and the high number of inmates serving time for nonviolent crimes. So when can a convict go on parole? Well, parole eligibility is determined during the original sentencing. People who are convicted of murder or other serious crimes will often be denied the possibility of parole. Inmates who qualify, however, can get credit for good behavior in prison and are released to serve the rest of their sentence under supervision. Until the 1980s, most states had parole boards to screen convicts and determine if they were eligible for parole. This was called discretionary parole because it was at the discretion of parole officers. However, this method has fallen from use in many states due to pressure from overcrowded prisons and other conflicts of interest. Discretionary parole could result in an unregulated and unfair early release or denials of parole. By 2016, states abolished the use of parole boards for all offenders and instead used mandatory parole, which automatically qualifies prisoners for parole based on their original sentencing and good behavior. Once freed, a parolee must stay within state bounds and can't possess firearms or ammunition. They are regularly drug tested, and any minor infraction, even one that doesn't result in a criminal charge, can be enough to send them back to jail. But does the parole system actually work? Well, according to a 2005 study by the Urban Institute, just 2 years after an average prisoner's release on parole, more than half found themselves back in jail. The head researcher concluded that the parole system had failed to keep ex-cons from returning to crime. Part of the reason was attributed to parole officers being overburdened by heavy caseloads. Each officer is tasked with as many as 70 parolees and 15-minute meetings once or twice a month. This is not enough for supervision and attention for those who need significant help reacclimating to society. Although President Obama has made it clear that the prison system needs reform, releasing more prisoners on parole may not work unless their support system is strengthened. Ex-cons often have significant need for work programs, mental health care, and other social development programs in order to avoid falling back into the criminal lifestyle.
Going through you right now. How you feeling?
Just happy to be home, and you know, it's almost justice, but it's a good feeling. But thank you guys for the support that you gave while I was sitting in there. That was an inspiration, because I didn't have much hope in people, and now I do. So thank you, Channel 13, especially for.
Where are you headed right now? What's the first thing you want to go do?
There's so many things I don't know, but thank you. I see me, but I just see what they stole from me. You know what I mean? My whole life, it's when I was a baby. So, but you know, same person. I had a good heart then, I got a good heart now. I was a carefree kid living life like most kids that age and that time. It was the 80s, listening to 80s music and loving life and hanging out. You know, so when I look back, it's like, that's what true freedom was. You know what I mean? So they took it. I don't think I saw it coming. I thought I had like, oddly, I mean, I have great faith in God and the people who have helped me and you know, some people and more now. But back then I had faith in everybody. You know what I mean? And so I didn't see, like, you know, I was all American. I still am. Still love America, you know what I mean? But I thought that, you know, there was no way the justice system could fail me. So there was no way I was going to be found guilty of a murder that I didn't do. So I didn't have too big of a concern. I mean, at some point it got real, like, all these guys really think I did this, or they're really trying to set me up and accuse me of it. But other than that, I didn't think it would happen. So I had perfect faith in the system. And I called my mom because I didn't want her to see it on the news.
You told your mother first. What did she say?
I said, it's all right, we'll call the courts. We'll get it straightened out in the morning. I said, Mom, this ain't the Andy Griffin show. Doesn't work that way. But I still thought that it would be fixed in months or a year or two at the most. And that everything would be all right. And just year after year sat there and nothing happened until John and Amy and God sent me angels. You know? Argued with my wife that no one cares, no one's ever going to care. And, you know, got to keep fighting for the truth to get justice, you know. But no one cares. No one's ever going to. So, well, you said you prayed for Amy and she was there. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, where's your faith at? You know, she's honest. She called me on everything, you know. We do that with each other. It's, well, you know, we call each other on our crap. But I just got mad again. I said, it's not happening. It's never going to happen. Stop saying people care. They don't care. You know, and she said, well, you don't think Amy cares? You don't think John cares? You don't think Kevin cares? Keegan cares? Or, you know, I said, I think they care. But the people who matter don't care. You know, I guess I was wrong. I guess the judge did care. Thank God. I just thought, wow, the truth is there. Justice is really coming. Poor Hope. You know what I mean? I do feel bad for her.
I was going to ask, what do you think of Katie?
Thank God she finally told the truth. That's all. I just, you know, I knew it was the truth, but I didn't know if she would ever tell it. But she told it. So it blew my mind. You know what I mean? I wanted to go up and give her a hug when she did, because, I mean, they robbed her, too. You know what I mean? She's a 13-year-old girl. It's a lot. I went back to that cell, and as you can see, they put me back in yellow, and even though I had volunteered to be there because I didn't want to be near anybody, I didn't want anyone to lie about me again, so I went back there and I laid down for a minute. I don't know if I fell asleep or what, but I prayed a little bit, and I picked my head up about 20 minutes later and said, God, if this ain't real, just take me now. Because if that was a dream, what just happened today, then just take me.
come out to say hi. Finding employment, finding a residence, everything I need to go back into society. You know, the reason why they call it reentry is because it's helping you to reenter society successfully and not just be thrown back out there on the streets, left to your own devices, because we know what that gets us.
So my PO brought me over here and put me in a 30-day program to help me adjust to society a little bit more. I was never scared before getting released from prison because I've been out 4 times. I've been out. I just didn't stay out. I was scared this time.
A couple years ago, a lot of offenses that they do now would have been an immediate return to prison. They would have been revoked. Turn around, cuff up, don't pass go. Returning people to prison for their minor infractions helps no one. It doesn't help the public, it doesn't help them. And it's helpful for the Tucson Parole Office to be right here. We're two separate entities, but we're on the same property, because all these services are right here. We just walk them down the hallway. Go see, Johnny. He can help you with your resume. He's with DES. Arizona Work.
It's changed over the years, Asking for a job is not the same as it was 10 years ago. Guy comes out after doing 20 years, he has no idea how to work a computer. Well, they often come to me and say, Mr. Clark, thank you for changing my life. Thank you for getting me a job. I let them know, I didn't get you a job. You got you a job. I didn't change your life. You changed your life.
Walk them down the next hallway. Let's go see Chris. Let's make sure that your access and your food stamps are hooked up. We do have a one-stop shop here. Get them their driver's license, their social security card, so when they do get out, they're not waiting 4 to 6 weeks. And, CHA, CHC, PCAP that come here. We have all kinds of services that they can do right here at the facility. What kind of intervention can we have in their life to correct what's going wrong? If they're needing family counseling, what is it that we can do to get them where they need to be so that they can be successful? If that means substance abuse, then it's substance abuse counseling and or training. We'll put them into a rehab.
This program has taught me a lot that I got to change my environment. I got to get away from that. There's a lot of good people that's going to be using, but if you really want to change, you got to get away from all that.
Part of recovery is looking at the ugly face of addiction, honestly. With the officers, the counselors, everybody cares. Everybody's trying to get to that one goal of keeping us sober and teaching us new techniques on how to stay sober.
Did you do morning meditation already? One of the things that I feel like we do at the Maricopa Reentry Center is we start setting these men free, whether it's a self-imposed prison or a physical prison.
Moving our knees up fast.
As low as I can go. Our staff, the security staff, the treatment staff, we are opening up a belief system with our offenders. They are believing that they can trust and count on the people who say they're here to help them. That didn't exist in these guys before they came here. Once you start to engage a person who's been incarcerated with an intervention, and guys have asked me, well, when is enough enough? How many times am I supposed to give them chances? I say just do it until it works.
I'm that guy. 5 times. 5 times. The same people, the same ones who helped me the first time, the same ones, Justin himself. The time and effort that they put in, if you don't put in the same time and effort, you will be back. And hopefully you make it here instead of prison.
1, 3, 2, and then I'm just slipping down. So watch my knee.
They go out of their way to drill into our heads that we're not in prison. They address us on a first name basis, not a inmate Hughes or your DOC number. They don't make you feel like you're in that environment.
This is where the ego lays at the door. The less I try to be Mr. Tough Guy, the better I'm going to learn.
And when you don't feel like you're in that environment, then you don't feel like you have to live like you're in that environment.
If my hands are not here, I'm vulnerable. If I'm not going to meetings, I'm vulnerable. I'm calling my sponsor, I'm not calling my sponsor, all right? Already fucking that too.
I refuse to call anybody by their last name here. You are a citizen. You are a person here. Everything that prepares them for that moment is what they get in treatment to then what they get when they go to the real world. And that is the beauty of what this really is. And it's that trust. They have to trust us that we're going to help them do that.
The transition program is definitely amazing, give you somewhere to be and a place that people will hold you accountable.
That transition from this really robot kind of prisoner, honestly, to this man who's going to be a member of my community, that's what I do this for. It's so exciting when they forget their number. They forget what it was like to be in prison. Because that's not who they are anymore.
I take this program as a blessing, like a second chance at life, you know what I'm saying? Because now I don't want to use drugs. I'm not going to.
You know, I look forward to being a productive member of that community instead of a thorn in its side.
This place has saved my life, and I know several other lives in there, and shown us that there is a better way. We need this place. We need more places like this place.
I think if he's put back in front of the prison door, but allowed to remain in society, I think he stands a better chance of readjusting himself to society.
Instead of making prisons, they should make places like this so they won't have to build prisons. Because you make places like this, people are going to learn.
Mr. Buckles, Joshua Edwin, number 29701.
Sir, yes, sir.
And you're 23 years of age.
Sir, yes, sir.
You're placed in confinement here for child abuse.
Sir, yes, sir.
Your earliest projected parole is December of this year.
Sir, yes, sir.
Understand that? First question, tell us about the offense that you put in here in detail.
There was a lot of things that added up to this day. This was like a dark moment in my life. Around 3:30, 4 o'clock, my stepdaughter was arguing and fighting with her mother. She kept arguing and fighting, and as she started screaming, it agitated me. That's when me and my fiance, we got into an argument. She started cussing at me. She started saying stuff about my family. She said that it's not right that since I was abused and beaten and mistreated as a child, that I should do it to them. But for some reason, that got to me, and I lost control. I grabbed her. I hit her a couple of times on top of the head. And in the process of doing all this, my son got hit. I ended up hitting my son for what I did to her.
I was working as a domestic violence officer late in October. We met with a female victim in the emergency room of the hospital. She had several knots all over her head where she was punched repeatedly. The little boy, he did have approximately a 4-inch bruise across his forehead.
She tried getting away, and I shoved her again, and I let her go. I got so worked up with the adrenaline, my anger. I destroyed the house. I got glass cuts all over my hand. I fractured my hand, and that's when they told me they were charging me with domestic abuse and battery, unlawful touch to inflict harm, and child abuse.
He needs to think about he's a grown man punching a 7-month-old baby in the head. He could have killed his son that day. Over what? Control?
The Way 31 I-Team just sat down with the chair of Alabama's parole board to discuss what the governor and attorney general call a broken parole system. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Schaefer.
And I'm Naja Sherman. Way 31's Brecken Terry is live at the Pardon and Parole Board headquarters in Montgomery to tell us about the conversation. Brecken.
Parole Board Chairperson Lynn Head told me their biggest flaw is communicating with the public, and that's one of the reasons why she wanted to do this interview with us to show us all the good that they're doing. Now, Head told me that they just hired 25 new probation and parole officers to keep up with supervision of people once they are paroled. Now, she said they have upgraded field officers' technology as well. Head said they are not operating a broken system. In a Way 31 I-Team investigation, we pointed out a series of flaws that led to a dangerous man being paroled, not kept up with, and now he's accused of murdering 3 people. Head told us there is no way to predict human behavior. In light of these issues, the Attorney General pushed for legislation that would give the governor more power over the parole board, strengthen victim notification, and stop early paroles. Head told us the reason they're against the legislation is because it won't fix anything.
After having worked with victims of crime for 18 years, I know that this legislation is not going to do anything to make them feel better. Individuals are still going to behave in unpredictable ways.
Now, Head also told me there are no issues with executive leadership at the board, and they all have decades of experience in this field and feel like they're the ones who can make the best informed decisions on who to parole, and if so, why or why not. Now, the Way 31 I-Team did obtain emails from the executive director of the parole board, Eddie Cook, where he directed employees on taxpayer time to actually come down to Montgomery and contest these bills. Head told me that that is not a violation of state law, and if anything, people would be asking them why they wouldn't be against these bills, because it's going to be changing so much here at their offices if it gets passed. Live in Montgomery, Brecken Terry, Way 31 News.
Thank you, Brecken. Lynn Head became chairperson of the parole board after a major overhaul from Governor Kay Ivey in October, and that happened after an extensive I-Team investigation into this man, Jimmy Spencer. He is the parolee charged with killing 3 people in Gunnersville. During our investigation, we found several disciplinary issues that should have kept Spencer from being released. We also found several faults with the victim notification of his parole hearings. Even the district attorney who prosecuted him was unaware that he was up for parole. All of our reporting into this case you can find online, waytv.com. Click on the I-Team tab.